Good morning, this is Brian with 410s LLC. We are a family that rents our van out for people to use and enjoy, and I just want to do a quick video to help you if you have any questions while you're on the road after our original departure. So starting on the driver's side, the very first thing we have here is the plug for the shore power. I have a cord inside there that we will plug into a 30 amp receptacle. If you're at a spot that has power available, you can plug that in and you will have full capabilities inside the van. The next one here is the cable, and that's typically not used ever. And then there's an additional solar jack that's typically never used. There is a light here for this side. There is two switches, one on the main tablet inside, and there's also one by the back door by the outdoor shower. You can turn this light on. This right here is just the exhaust for the diesel heater. You may see a little bit of steam or ice buildup or a little bit of fumes coming out of there, which is totally normal. So that is the vent for the diesel heater. Here is the cassette toilet compartment. There are two buttons here to open that, and I will go over that in detail in a little bit. Moving around the van, we have the fresh water fill, which I'll explain that in just a minute. And then we also have the live water fill, which is if you're at a campsite or at a house with actual pressure with water on the hose, you can have that and have your water supply fed from the city. Again, the freshwater tank will be filled here. It's a gravity fed compartment. You just unlock that, there's a knob, and the hose just kind of sets inside there. It doesn't actually connect. That will fill the 26-gallon freshwater tank, and when it's full, it'll actually dump out on the bottom, and it'll also backflow out of here, and you'll know the tank is completely full. Coming back here is the spare tire with the padlock on there. The padlock has the code on the inside in the main book, the owner's manual kind of cheat sheet that we have inside. Here we have the extra toolbox storage compartment. You can put wet, muddy stuff in there if you'd like. The two buttons here are very easy to use. You just push them. This part will open here. You'll see I have the two hoses, the cords, some bungee cords, a shovel, some leveling jacks, jumper cables, and a small tool bag, and a trash picker upper. All right, continuing on back here, when you close this here, you just need to pull this little knob up here to close it. And then same thing here, you just need to push in, and this has a pretty good latch. Just click that there. There you go. I typically don't lock that. If you want to lock it, there is a key in the cup holder, but I've never had a problem so far in a couple years. Coming around this side here, this is the side door passenger side. I have the mounts here, which I'll go over in detail for the canopy. I also have an outdoor outlet. So if you're plugged into shore power or the inverter's on, you will have power. And then the last button here is for cable TV, again, which typically does not get used. When the passenger sliding door is left open, it comes all the way back. To release it, you have to actually pull this here to release it. And then we have a little notch kit, which will stop the door approximately halfway to give you a little privacy, but also have some fresh air. And I will show you that just real quick. So when you see that, it just kind of holds there. Now, when you go to close the door, you need to use pretty good force and get it closed all the way, so you'll see that this seam is flush. Otherwise, there will be an indicator light on the dash if it's not closed all the way. This is the second canopy leg mount, and I'll show you that again in detail. There's the canopy with an exterior light that you can turn on in the inside tablet. Okay, back to the fresh water for the sink, the shower, flushing the toilet. I typically don't drink out of this tank. It is clean. I do flush it out, but I usually bring bottled water or some kind of water that's just a little bit better tasting. Again, this trap door here has a key that's on the keychain. You just open this here, and then you open this little knob here. And again, the hose just kind of sets inside there. A lot of times I can set it in there and then walk away. And then again, once it overflows, when the tank is completely full, it will spill out on the top, and also on the bottom you'll see some water flowing out. You will know that it's completely full and ready to go. And again, I just lock this and make sure it's closed tightly. Again, this one is for the white hose that will hook up to the city water spigot, like a hose bib, or in the campsite, and that will give you fresh water for the coach. Now, if you have that hooked up, you will most likely need to come over here on the gray water tank, which I'm going to talk about next, and you will have to have your hose hooked to that with a valve open and ran over to the sewer line, so the water will drain out if you're taking a shower or doing a lot of dishes. There is currently a 26-gallon freshwater tank, which is typically good for several days of camping off-grid, and there's a 24-gallon gray water tank, which again will be the water from the the sink and the shower. All right, now we're going to talk about the cassette toilet, which is for number 1 and number 2 going to the bathroom, and then we're going to talk about the gray water release. So in the black water cassette tank, sorry about that, I have to use both hands, there are just 2 buttons here. Let me review that. 2 buttons here that you push at the same time. There is a lock on there. I typically don't lock this either, so it's up to you if you would like to lock that. So I have a set of gloves in here, and basically when you open this here, you just lift this, slide this out, and then you can carry it over to a J-John, a gas station bathroom, and or you can take it into the residence toilet, or you could take it into a camping J-John. This just slides out here like this. You undo the cap, and then you just carefully pour it and roll it so it sloshes into the toilet. And then when you're all done, we just slide this back in. You make sure that clicks, and then that is back into that spot there. Once we're done with that, we typically go inside, make sure both of those are latched. We go back inside and add about 1 gallon of water from the toilet. You push the blue button, which I will show you, and add a blue tablet to drop it into the tank. Here is the gray water valve. You just unscrew this little hose bib here, and then you pull this latch out here, and then that will allow the gray water from the shower and the kitchen sink to drain out. I do have a green, fluorescent green hose that hooks to that, and then you can let that go into the sewer at the campsite or whenever you get to an RV park. All right, I'm going to show you a couple mechanical things for the coach itself. We had talked about the spare tire, and the combination code is 1020. The diesel fuel port is right here. People have trouble with this. They kind of forget where it's at because it's hidden very well. The nice thing about this is you can actually, when you get to the gas station, you can actually close this door, lock the coach, and continue fueling while you go inside. Again, you can't close this, of course, until the door is open, but it also locks your fuel tank so no one can mess with it, which is also a nice feature. That's number 1. The second thing I'm going to show you is to open the hood if you ever needed to. It's that little button there. And as most hoods, there's a typical little lever right here. You can hit that, and then we do have gas struts on here, so they lift up automatically. I just wanted to show you one quick thing is we have the windshield washer fluid, which is typically full, and then we have the DEF. So if you have this more than a week or 2, you may need to add DEF fluid, and that's here. You can buy that diesel exhaust fluid. It's very important that it only goes here, and then you get the proper diesel exhaust fluid from a auto parts store. And again, that just pours right into there, no problem. Most likely, for most 99% of the trips that we've had so far, no one needs to mess with that. I fill that up for you. As you can see, I have a couple auxiliary off-road lights and one up there. It is very important that you only turn those on if you are off the highway. They are very blinding. And to control those, there's a main power switch right here. That red light is on. You will see that this illuminates, and you can turn the cubes on, which are on the hood right there, and the big overhead one is right there. Again, just to reiterate, you cannot use these on the highway. They're way too bright. And again, when you're done with this, just kill this master switch. It'll turn off that blue thing. Everything's good to go. Okay, we've opened both rear doors, and there's just a couple small things here. There's obviously a receptacle there if you are plugged into shore power, or if the inverter's on, that will work. There's a 12-volt cigarette lighter if you need to inflate something. Here is the water valve, and that is for the outdoor shower. And then also there's the light, which is on the driver's side exterior light switch. In this compartment here, we have storage, which is lockable. There is a metal door that's pretty heavy that lifts up lockable space here. I just currently have the 2 chairs, the fold-up table, an extra, or the main power cable, I should say. There's an emergency tow strap. There is a foldable light here that is nice for campsite. I do have an emergency kit there. Also, I have some Fix-A-Flat a step stool, and the outdoor shower cable is all in here. Typically I keep that stuff in there, and the latch just latches here, and you roll this back. You most likely will never have to use this, but this is the emergency disconnect for the battery system that runs the entire coach. It just gets flipped to your left here, off, and then if you need to reset it to turn it back on, you twist it to the right and have to push in that button as the reset breaker. For more just information only, not necessarily for anything you'll have to deal with, but this is the main battery system, which we talked about, the battery cutoff. There's also one by the main door, and then this is just your water tank and control, so there's nothing behind those panels that you will need to deal with. Again, I did show you that the bed folds up if you need to, and then it folds up towards the windows if you had something tall in the center. There are some tie downs. Again, I haven't used those yet, even though I carry lots of gear. Back to the amenities, there's a first aid kit here, and there is a single person hammock that you're welcome to use. These are a couple extra cords for the Starlink, but again, that just depends on if you've rented it. And also the Starlink will be on the roof 99% of the time, unless you're covered with trees that it's blocked that. This is the rear bug screen, and to lower that bug screen there, you just unclip those two, you lower it down, and you can do multiple things here. You can zip that up so you have a full screen so none of the bugs get in. You can roll up the back and stop it about halfway here to access your gear. And then you can also, on the top, just roll down the blackout screen, so for sleeping, or you can keep that up and have the screen open so you can look out. Also, for the side sliding door, inside this compartment here, I didn't show you that, but there is the bug screen that's tucked in there. That is used to Velcro up to the side door. I'll show you that location in a second. Okay, we're on the side, passenger side of the coach here with the main sliding door. I have it locked open. We do have in the rear compartment, which I didn't show you, but there is a bug screen in there that is able to Velcro here to this section here. And then it Velcros on this section all the way to the top, and you can see up there, there's some Velcro spots there. There is a zipper and a magnetic entry, so you can just push through and get inside the coach easily. Okay, I'm gonna start working on the inside of the coach here. I'm at the passenger sliding door. And for here, real quick, there's just a pull down table, which is nice. A lot of times if I'm gonna use the electric cooktop that is included in here, you can plug it in here. There's a USB A and C, which is nice, and some storage. If you are using this outlet, just like I mentioned before, is you either have to be plugged into shore power with a cord into someone's house or the campsite, or you have to have the inverter on the battery system, which I will show you shortly. You have 3 rolls of toilet paper in this little spot here. It's just magnet. You have to pull pretty hard to get that open. And that is also, there's a spare roll inside the bathroom itself. Okay, starting inside the doorway here, I have the emergency cutoff switch, which I have not turned off, have no need to. That can just stay on. If there's ever a problem, you can hit this main breaker into the off position, just like I showed you in the back of the coach with the battery system cut off. Here's one more 120 volt receptacle that's GFI protected. Again, shore power or the inverter. This is the main battery system. I will show you that in detail in just a few minutes, but that's the main button there, and you just long press that and then the screen will turn on. Over here in the entry, we are going to have the main power for the Starlink to turn that on if you've actually added that as an add-on. And we have a USB A and C there. We have a GFI receptacle, and then we also have the GFI reset button. So if none of the outlets are working and you're plugged into shore power and you have the inverter on, it could be possibly that tripped. The middle one there is the heater vent, and then the one down there is the carbon monoxide detector. If you need, behind this here, there is a fuse box and some breakers that you typically will never have to get into, but this just pops straight off. It's just friction fit, and you could check the breakers and or the fuses. Moving up to the top, I have the TV, which if you pull this cable here, this chain, this will swing out and go back towards the back of the coach, and you can spin it around to your right if you have the tables and chairs spun around. Also in here, I have the remote control. I also have some spare trash bags up there, and if you're really in a pickle after calling me, trying to figure it out yourself, and then also looking at the little binder that we have with all the cheat sheets, there is all the master owner's manuals of all components inside this bin. Also down here, I have a bin for cleaning supplies, dust broom, a couple trash bags, and some cleaning solution and some Clorox wipes. All right, talking about the TV one more time. In order for the TV to work properly, the TV, either the coach has to be plugged into shore power, or the inverter has to be on, and this red light will be on if that is the case. There is another carbon monoxide detector and then a smoke detector up top there. Again, here we have a JBL speaker Bluetooth. It charges with USB-C. I typically try and charge it for each trip. And the Bluetooth code is JBL Flip 5. Here on the tablet, I'll go over that in detail shortly, and then we have the heater control up there. Okay, talking about venting, we have this magnetic fit blackout shade. This vent here is nice. It is not waterproof, so we're going to jump over to here to show the vent. And if you can see here without too much glare, sorry about that, you can open it up there. And then once that is open, you'll see it raise up on its own. You will come back here, and then you can actually turn on the fan, which is wonderful for the evenings to have the back bedroom windows open, and then you get the nice breeze in here. So again, that is not protected by rain, so if you want to have one open all night long and you think it might rain, you can open the bathroom one and keep this one closed. There's also a button here for the bathroom vent fan. You can turn that on and off there. And again, that vent lid is manual. You have to compression fit, you have to push it up and pull it down for the bathroom only. Back to this here, you can just put the magnetic cover on to black out the coach. All right, this is going to be climate control for the AC unit and or the heater, which we'll go over together. For the air condition, you'll have to be on shore power or have the inverter on to use that. Again, the AC draws a ton of power, so if you're using the AC on battery, you'll probably get approximately 4 hours out of that. So you really have to manage your power with the AC. Again, going to the climate here, if you want to use that, you'll just hit the cool button, set your temperature, high, low, and off. So right now it's currently off, and then that will turn on the AC in the rear ceiling. Moving up to the heater, this is an Aqua Hot. This heater actually will heat the coach from diesel. It runs on 12 volts and also will heat the water. So to control the heater and or the hot water heater, you will just push the center button. It will light up, and then you'll push it again. You'll see the coach flashing. That is for the heater. You'll hit the enter button there, and then it'll say that it's off. You can set your temperature, whatever you like, hit the enter button, and then hit the back button, which is here. It's hard to see this button. And then that will set you at 53 degrees. That flame will mean that if it gets down to 53 degrees, it will kick on automatically and work just fine. Now, if you wake up in the morning and you want to turn it off or adjust the temperature, you can just hit the center button there. Again, the heater's flashing, touch that one more time, and then you can turn that all the way down, and then you go to the off button there. Perfect, so that means heater is off. That will take a minute, and then we'll come back in just a second to show you the hot water. When it's shutting down, it kind of pauses the screen for just a little bit. That's normal. You touch it once, the light comes on, you touch it again, and then we'll go over to water. That little symbol of water, and that is a symbol for heating the coach. You do not need to worry about these two here. Again, if you touch that one more time, it shows that it's off. You can turn it on echo, which just kind of keeps the tank warm a little bit, and then you can turn it on hot if you know you're going to take a shower or do some dishes. It does take anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes to heat up, so definitely do this prior to wanting to use it. And typically I leave it in the off position. Some people like to leave it in echo to just keep their water warm for washing hands and dishes. And then again, just to recap, anytime you come up to this, if the screen's dark, touch it. You have the heater, hot water heater, and then again, just cycle through there, off, temperature, on, and then or return. And then again, to turn it off, you go to the heater, turn it all the way down to off, enter, and then it's gonna stay in this state for a minute. Same thing with the hot water heater. Okay, we're gonna talk about the awning. So we're gonna extend the awning here, and you'll see immediately it starts coming out. So if you want to just have it come out a little bit, which is the way I use it quite a bit, I'll have it come out a few feet just to stop the rain, and then you just touch the same button here to stop it. And then you can see that it stops and it's able to be folded out. The number one critical rule here is if there's any wind at all, please don't use the canopy. It will break it, and they're very expensive. Again, if you want to continue to retract it, you just hit this button, and then you can stop it again there, or you can hit that button again to extend it all the way. Now when it's extending all the way, you'll notice that it actually gets really saggy and looks like it's about to fall off the roof, but it is completely normal. It's the way the system works. It extends it 100% and then it'll suck in the excess canopy. You'll see here in just 1 second. So once it comes out all the way, you'll see how it gets saggy, and then it should retract that there. So now I'm going to show you the legs part of this. All right, there's a couple legs up here in the front part of the canopy. I do have a step stool in the back. To undo the legs, you just push here, and then the leg pulls out. You can see that, and then this part of the leg will extend over to the coach, which we talked about earlier. So this will come straight up. This little hook here will come into the top first. You can see that, the top. Sorry, maybe the bottom first. Sorry, the bottom first. Then you bring this down, and then the leg is connected for the coach. And it's the exact same thing on this side here. That part will come out, and it will come down to this location here. Again, this gives you plenty of coverage for rain or for sun, which is wonderful. Problem is, if there's any wind at all, this needs to be retracted in. This will break in no time. So I'm going to do the reverse over here to remove the arm. Pull this out there. The leg will slide in. Sorry for the shaky camera. And then this will be on the inside, and then it'll sit right inside there, and it catches right in that little spot right there. Same thing over here. So just push that to get that out. All right, last section on the canopy is touch the screen. You'll hit the retract button, and again, you'll see it retract in. The only thing that I ask is once it retracts all the way, is that you just make sure that it sucks up all the way to the close spot up there. That way when you're driving, it doesn't catch any wind. So far, I've never had a problem with it, but just something to look out for when you're rolling up the canopy. Again, you can see here in a second. You can see how it sucks all the way in. Perfect. Just briefly talking about the sink. In order for the sink to work and to flush the toilet, the home screen, again, the water pump has to be illuminated for that to work, and then everything will work. So if you go to hit the faucet and it's not working, most likely it's going to be the water pump is not turned on, highlighted blue. We'll continue into the bathroom since we're talking about water, and there is the blue switch here, which is for flushing the toilet, and that will fill the toilet full of water. And then to drain the toilet, you just pull this lever and it opens up into that cassette toilet. That's where you'll add some water, and you will also add the blue tablet, which I have down there, into the toilet so you can prevent the smell, and it decomposes the toilet matter. In here I have a spare toilet paper. I do have 2 mud towels that you can use for anything. I don't care. I'm assuming those are going to come back filthy dirty. There's also the blue tablets. And moving on to the toilet paper roll here, if you are taking a shower, of course, this lid will have to be closed because this is considered a wet bath. There is the shower head. I do have an on-off switch there, so once you get your temperature set, you can turn the turn the water flow off there and get the perfect temperature, lather up soap to conserve water, and then rinse off again. Here is the shower curtain here, and there is two medicine cabinet here with a little Febreze and then a laundry net. There is an exhaust fan up here that you just push straight up. It's friction fit straight up. We'll open it. There's a fan switch here and a light switch, which are the most 2 manual switches that you'll have. And then there's also those same controls on the tablet, but it's nice to have them locally. Typically when I drive, I keep this closed, and also you can leave it open at night. It does have a rain guard on it, so you can leave it open during the evening. All right, here we're gonna talk about the appliances. We have the refrigerator, which can open from both sides here. You can open it here, and it has a very small freezer section. Also, you can move the shelves around or remove a couple if needed for tall items. Per the label here, if you are sleeping at night and you want the refrigerator to cycle less for less noise and also to save battery power, you can hit the long press the power button, and I'll do that now to show you, and a green light will come on for night mode, which helps the unit to cycle less and use less battery. And again, in the morning when you wake up, you can just hit the button one time and it turns it back on, no problem. Again, the microwave, self-explanatory. As long as this green light is on, that means you are on shore power and you have the inverter on to use that. So plugged into power or the inverter is on. And just to recap, to use the microwave, to use the air conditioner, to use the hot plate and the receptacles and or the TV, you will have to be on shore power and or you'll have to be on, the inverter will have to be turned on. Back to the refrigerator, that will run off the battery, which is perfect because you don't have to touch anything or mess with anything, but it does draw power. So if you're out remote for several days, you will have to probably turn on the alternator to charge the battery. Going into just a few of the amenities, we have the drawers here for the kitchen. We have all utensils and some towels, some cleaning soap. We also have the ice cube tray, some Tupperware, some sugar, a couple extra cups, some Ziploc bags, matches, etc. And then the last items are the pots and pans on the very bottom, and then a strainer and a big mixing bowl for salads or food. On there we have a 12-volt fan that is nice, that has a battery pack that should be charged. You can also charge it with USB-C. In the bins above here, we have some suntan lotion, some batteries, some playing cards, just some miscellaneous fuses. And then in this bin up here, we have some sunscreen, bug spray, canteen lantern, and then also a plug-in space heater. So if you're on shore power, you're able to use that space heater, plug it into a regular receptacle, and that will heat up the coach just fine. You won't have to mess with the current heater. All right, now we're just going to talk briefly about the rear bed. There's two windows here that open up easily. There's a slide and a screen on both of them automatically when you open those windows, so that's convenient. And we already discussed the rear shade. You can unclip that before you go to bed and either leave the screen up or the blackout portion down. There is some storage up here for you for clothing and or personal items. And the bed basically, if absolutely needed, can fold up out of the way if you need more storage down here. I've never had to use that yet because there is plenty of storage down here, so typically I just leave the bed in place. And there are a couple light switches here that are manually turned on, which is nice when you're in bed. You can just turn those on with push of a button, and that will control the lighting back here. Continuing talking about the lighting on the main screen here, you have the home button, and then you have the lighting, and that will basically show you all the areas. You can also turn on the exterior, which is the awning, and the curbside light, which we talked about outside. If you go to the interior, again, you can turn these on. Some of these have dimmers on them. You can see here, very easily to use, and you can turn them all off with just a touch of a button. Perfect. Back to the amenities. I know we talked about earlier, we have a couple chairs and a fold-up table, small table. You'll have 2 pillows, a couple bath towels, a nice big comforter, and also a top sheet. As far as amenities continued, we have an umbrella up here. There's the cooktop that's here. I already talked about this bin. I also have some screens for bugs that will go over these front door windows. So you can slide them over. They Velcro. It's very, very self-explanatory. And then once those are in place, you can roll down the windows, assuming it's not raining, and then you can get some fresh air through that also. The umbrella up here is perfectly welcome to use it, and then the rest of the stuff up here is the front screens. I have thick screens that go over the windshield and the 2 sides here. Mostly it's magnetic compression fit, so those are nice to use. I typically will basically pull this curtain here and block it off. It actually keeps the heat in, it's nice, it keeps the sunlight out, and it's very, very quick to deploy. So again, for me, I like to use this, and a lot of times I will tuck this up on top there. Okay, talking about the inside of the vehicle, we'll go through a few things. Here is the controller for the seats, forward and backwards, tilt. Again, here's the seat heaters. We have the unlock and lock the coach doors. This is the windows up and down, of course, and then this is your mirror controls. Left mirror, you can tilt them, and then the right mirror, and then all of your controls are there. There's also a wide angle mirror down low that you can manually push with your thumb outside to get more of an angle that is suited for you. But the top part of the mirror is controlled from right here. Again, moving on, the lights are all automatic. You don't have to mess with any of that. As you get into the coach, It'll have your typical array there, and the most important things here is when you put on the brake, you touch the start, it will automatically start. Of course, you will need the keys close by for that to work. You can see that it's got some red lights on there for showing you that the doors are open in the back and the side. This controller here is for this screen, and this controller here is for that screen. You can see that the camera is on because the doors are open and when you first started out. Again, going back to this screen here, if you hit this works like a mouse button. You can hit the home button and you can scroll left or right all the way through all the items on the screen. But again, most of the time I just leave it on trip, and then I hit the, trip there. Sorry, trip. And then you hit the enter button and it takes it to there. Now on the same controller here, you can scroll down and scroll up to see your miles per gallon, all that information. This screen again, you hit the home button, it'll take you to the navigation, and same situation. You can use this mouse. You have your volume control here, answer and hang up your phone, speak, and you also have the cord here. If you have Apple or Android, will work for both Apple CarPlay and Android. Works very nice. You plug your phone in, you accept it on this, you accept it on your phone, and then when your phone calls will come in, they automatically go to this. Also, your navigation will go to that. So it has its own separate navigation, but I typically like to use my phone navigation. A couple quick tips here. This is the rear camera, which will turn on. It's only able to be on when you are backing up or very slow speeds. This is the volume for the stereo, and the other item down here is the AC on there. You see the red light for the AC is on, and then there's your recirculation. This is the button for the hazard lights. Hopefully you won't need those. And then up here you have a button for the SOS, which calls Mercedes-Benz. And then there's some separate controls there for the lights, overhead lights. So again, you got the emergency button there for Mercedes-Benz. To recap, we only have 11 feet clearance, so please, please, please watch for drive-throughs, low-hanging trees if you're camping outdoors, and also for no drive-throughs or just, again, low things in parking lots. This van is very tall. Again, to recap, volume, air condition, hazard lights, engine start. This controller here is for the main screen to scroll through all those, and then this control here is on this one here. Your excuse me, windshield wipers, and then this is actually how you go into park and drive. You actually use this toggle. So if you can see here, I'm in reverse, R for up, and then you can see that the rear camera comes on as you put it in drive, and then you push this button here for park. And that's it for the coach.